Hey, you, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie Podcast. Willard and I are coming to you from the bedroom today, and we're bringing you a rebroadcast from what I thought was my Live Aligned radio days, but I forgot about the time that I decided one morning to rebrand to the Life Coaster podcast. I don't know what I was thinking, and actually, re-listening to this, I'm going to go do some self-reflection because I kind of want to understand what I was going through at that period in time because I'm not sure. And the reason I'm rebroadcasting this episode is because I am currently going through an identity shift. And as I announced on the last podcast episode, I will not be recording another podcast episode until my book is published. But as I was recording this episode, I just kept hearing repost Hannah's episode. And it occurred to me, Hannah specializes in identity and identity shifts. And the name of this episode originally, and what I will rebroadcast it as, is Claim Your Crown with Hannah Brindley. And for her, it was about stepping into, and what she teaches her clients is to step into that queen identity. And the irony of it all is, if you listen to my last episode, is I just finished wrapping up a book called The Queen's Code about stepping into, as women, stepping into that queen identity. And so it feels really special. And I feel like I need this reminder. And my hope is that what Hannah has to say, that you need this reminder or you need this message too. And Hannah just has such a beautiful way of being open and honest and bringing it all together and really caring about how she brings her message into the world. And whether you're spiritual or Buddhist or Catholic or Christian, I really love how Hannah talks about God for all. And she honors that, yes, this is her truth, and she comes from more of a Christian belief, but she just, in my opinion, the feeling that I get from her is she just wants you to have a relationship with God, and whatever that looks like for you. This just happens to be how she does it and how she helps her clients have faith-fueled businesses, as she calls it. So I'm so honored to bring this to you today. And just a fair warning, in my last life, maybe in my next life, or maybe God has plans that I am unaware of for me in this lifetime, I probably could have been an auctioneer. I did not realize how fast I used to talk. And as I was listening to this episode, before I recorded this intro, I just kind of nodded and said, okay, Michaela, I don't know what you were smoking back then, but holy crap, I could talk fast. So my apologies for then and now, and my quick tongue, holy Moses. I don't know if I could keep up. So fair warning there. And then another warning, none of the links for me will work anymore. As I said, this was a rebroadcast from my life coaching days and my Live Aligned radio days. That was very personal development focused. All of that stuff has been archived. My website's been archived. My links have been archived. So the ads and stuff that you will find within this podcast, none of it is relevant. So skip past that. Do with it what you will. Some of the things that I talk about, as far as there's an ad for an app called Honey. It's an amazing app. So go find it. Just, I don't have a link for you to get a discount code or anything anymore. I think that's about it. Hannah is still very accessible on Facebook and Instagram. So if you feel so called to reach out to her, those links are still relevant. Hannah Brindley on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, during my hiatus, I believe I said I will be on Instagram and really focusing on building that community. We are currently having a discussion about whose version of Fast Car is better, Luke Combs or Tracy Chapman's, and why the versions are hitting different people differently. I'm loving the conversation. I am loving hearing your perspectives on it. So whether you are listening to this episode as it broadcast or 2 years down the road, these the discussion will be saved on a highlight in my Instagram profile. So feel free to send me your thoughts. They'll be saved to the highlight section. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did back in 2021. And yeah, I hope this is the message that you need as much as I do. Take care, and I will see you on the other side with my book baby in hand. Today's episode is brought to you by Honey. Do you like to save money and time? Of course you do. Before Honey, I used to search the internet for hours and hours trying to find a discount code for something I knew I didn't have to pay full price for. And now Honey does all the work for me. Not only that, but Honey finds the best discount code for what you're looking for. Because why save 15% when you can save 20%? Let Honey do the time and work for you. Go to livealignedcoaching.com/discount codes. That's livealignedcoaching.com/discount codes and start saving money with Hannah today. The link is waiting for you in the show notes. Hello, my friend, and welcome to another episode of the Life Coaster podcast. I'm your host, Michaela. I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest, Willard the Corgi, Tank the Corgi, Daisy the Corgi, Little Bob the German Shorthair, and Maddie the Wiener Schnitzel, and a whole bunch of other animals outside that I am not going to take the time to name because we would be here all day. Now, my friend, I'm a little biased. However, I will say it once and I will say it again because these interviews are my favorite and I have a guest for you today. And I don't know how to say it other than I started these interviews because one, I love it is for selfish reasons. I love connecting with new and other people, but also in my own journey, hearing other people's stories and feeling less alone was a big piece of my transformation. And I know that my story is not going to resonate with all of you. So my goal is to bring guests on with different stories than myself, sometimes similar stories as myself. But I want you to be able to hear somebody's story and see hope, see faith, see a promise of a better tomorrow, because that's what gave me the promise, was hearing other people that had went through a similar struggle and got out of it. And I'm like, oh, wait, I can get better. I can do better. And before we dive into the interview, I just want to say that I read some study, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but something like 76% of people have turned to some form of spirituality during the quarantine. So the last guest I had on the show, Ria, her and I talked about more of going from traditional religion. So she is from a South Asian culture. So she talked about her transformation from going from that form of religion to having more of a spiritual practice. Where our guest today, we talk more about practices around Christianity as well as the difference between God and Jesus and the Bible. And I really love the conversation. I really love Hannah's perspective and her view on that. And I just want to encourage you, one, listen to this interview with an open mind, and two, the guest, I don't want to give it away, said something that I think is so powerful. And I am going to say it here because I think it's just so important, but it's like most of us are looking for God and we don't even know it. Now, fill in God with the universe, the source, infinite intelligence. I know people have a lot of different terminology for it, whatever, sits right with you. But we're looking for all these things. We don't know what we're looking for. And turns out it is God. So if you feel stuck, if you feel lost, I just want to let you know that you're in the right place and there's going to be something in this interview for you. So without further ado, here is my interview with our guest today. Just a few short years ago, our guest today had a college degree in biology that she wanted nothing to do with and a job she hated and felt like she'd hit rock bottom.
After several phone calls back and forth, she decided to move back home and start over. Fast forward to today, she's learned to embrace her own queen identity, climbed to the top 1% in a network marketing company, and launched her own business to help other female entrepreneurs embrace their own queen identity. She's a Georgia peach who lived in Austin, Texas, where she found her love for swing dancing. She was born on the 4th of July, and if you head over to her house, you better grab a sweatshirt because she keeps her apartment nice and cold, and maybe also a swimsuit because she lives right next to the Chattahoochee River. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today the queen herself, Hannah Brindley.
Oh my gosh, I have chills. Hi.
Welcome to the show.
That was like the best introduction ever.
I literally cannot sing. So I grew up on Alan Jackson, so I literally can't stop singing Chattahoochee.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I was like, whoa, she knows so much about me. And then I was thinking, oh wait, those are all in my posts. Duh, Hannah.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to start out by talking about the queen identity because you use the identity piece and the queen piece very strategically. So can you tell us what identity is and then why the queen?
Yes. So identity, oh my goodness, identity is everything. So way back when, while I was getting my life and success certification, it was around this time last year, actually, I discovered that your identity, ultimately, if you want to shift anything in reality, it's not about changing what you do. And it's not about do. It's all about shifting who you are on an identity level. And when you can shift who you are, ultimately, you shift what you do. And so if you're wanting to be more productive, you actually have to step into this version of yourself who is ultimately more productive, who is this quote unquote next level you. And so for a while, that's all the identity was for me. And it really just kind of changed everything because I always try to change what I do. But one day I remember, it's so funny because I remember going to a Bible study. Okay. So I have always, grown up as a Christian, but I actually went to a Bible study and I don't even remember what was said, but something hit me. And I remember literally talking to God in the car on the way home. I was like, God, I get it. And I got that this whole idea of this is going to sound crazy. I've never even shared this before, but this whole idea of, doing good works and having faith, and you must do. And this whole idea behind religion that you must do in order to get to heaven or, whatever it is, that people say. And that's kind of how I grew up and how I felt like I believed and I was stuck on for so long. And it hit me that it's not about what you do. It's who you are and your identity and God, for me and Jesus, right? But it hit me that ultimately, if I shift who I am on an identity level, if I really embody this person who God made me to be, which I'm created in his image, so ultimately I am a queen, right? Because he's a king. If I embody this, then ultimately what I do is going to be lined up with who I am. And so at the end of the day, it was kind of wow, that's where it came from. This idea of having to do, but faith, but all you have to do is have faith. It's meshed together because when you do have faith and you ignite that and you boldly step into this queen identity, you wind up doing the things that because you want to, and that's who you are. And so now queen identity has become, yes, who God made me to be. It's my next level self. It's who I envision he created me to be. And that's what the queen identity is. And it's changed everything. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, because you were down that hustle and grind rabbit hole for quite a few years.
Yes.
Yeah.
quite a few years. I was really stuck in this. I have to hit the next rank in my network marketing company. I have to hit these 10K months. I idolized 10K months pretty much my entire entrepreneurial journey. So 3.5 years or 3 years it was, I idolized it. And I would have never said I idolized it, but I so did. And I thought like, okay, I just have to work more. I literally, before COVID hit, okay, so this was pre-quarantine. I quarantined myself in my house to work 24/7. I am not kidding. And it destroyed me. It destroyed me. And I ended up falling into this depression and anxiety. And thank goodness that was around the time I decided to get certified in life and success coaching. And I discovered this whole identity piece and this embodiment piece. Man, like those were some rough days because I thought I was doing the quote unquote right thing. Like, you have to be obsessed with success to be successful. I was following these rules and what people say and like all this mindset stuff. And it did not go so well for me.
Yeah. You said at one point, like you finally hit the goal, like you were the top 1%, I think maybe even the 0.5% of your company. And you said after you walked across the stage, you actually a few days later had a breakdown.
I did. Yeah. So it's really interesting that you brought up that story. So it was literally a few days later when I got home after that I had what I like to call a mini identity crisis. And it actually happened another time as well that I kind of want to bring into this because I think it has to do with exactly what we're seeing here. When I finally did hit that 10K month, because I finally did do it, I also had a mini panic attack, a mini identity crisis here. I felt like I didn't deserve these things. And even though I hustled like crazy, like I worked my butt off. I'm not going to lie. Like I was a hard worker. I did the things. I did everything I was told. Yet I still felt like I did not deserve that success. And again, the reason why is because I was basically seeking my identity in success. I was seeking identity in dollar signs. I was seeking identity and being validated by the world. And it's so funny because I would always say I wanted to and I want to impact the world. And sure, deep down I did. I really, really did. But honestly, I feel like my motives were not because I wanted to change the world. It was because I wanted to be validated by it. And that was a really hard pill to swallow when I realized that, because you don't think it at the time. And in the middle of all that, I never would have said those things or I was wanting to be validated or any of that. But I was, and I was really seeking that. I didn't know who I was. And I was running away from this queen identity and ultimately trying to find my worth in these things and what people told me.
It's just like so crazy because, on the previous thing the previous topic we just covered, you were talking about once you stepped into your own identity, you became the person you needed to be. But then when you were in that hustle and grind rabbit hole, you were actually like running away from who you needed to be, which is like so many of us get stuck in that.
It's wild. And it's like you think that you have to do these things in order to be. And so that's one thing about this whole identity piece that I realize is that it's not do and then be, it's be and then do. And it's ultimately your heart, like your intentions, your motive. That's what matters, at the end of the day. If you are being driven by something that is not sustainable. And for me, I realized that I have to be so rooted in my faith and so rooted in knowing that God is providing for me, that God is making my God-sized dreams a reality, and that it's aligning with whatever He needs or whatever I need. I have to be so rooted in that or else I fall apart. I'm not the same human.
Yeah. 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 I think too many of us are trying to build empires on sinkholes. Like we don't lay that foundation. And like you were talking about being rooted, like we don't have that foundation. We don't have that groundwork. And then we wonder why when we get this 10-story building built, why it crumbles. It's like, well, you're building on ground that's going to cave in eventually.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I literally, that's so funny that you say foundation, because I talk about how igniting your faith and stepping into your queen identity is the foundation. If you do not have that, you can have the strategy all day long to build your business, but it's going to crumble. I was there. I did that. It's going to crumble, not because you did it wrong, but because when you go in there with that kind of energy and you are working your business with that kind of motive, it's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. You cannot physically do those things. Like I'm telling you, I was hand holding everyone. I was on calls like way too late. I was just doing things. I look back now and I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that I learned from that, but I will never go back to that again. I was miserable in the middle of it. I was. And it's just crazy. It really is, because we're always like, what's really going to work, we're so afraid of, because that means that we have to really have faith and we have to trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you mind going deeper into the consequences of that like hustle rabbit hole? Because I think it's so easy for us to look at like all your success and only see the benefits. You know, we only see the stage that you were walking across, the 10K months, the bonuses, but we don't see the consequences.
Yeah. So I love this question. Going deeper here. I really hated myself. I really hated showing up. I got to the point where I resented it. I got to the point where I just stopped showing up altogether. There's a period where there's a few months where there's no posts or anything, because I totally was like, I am not doing this. I hate this. And I found myself going into this hole, like digging it deeper and deeper and deeper, because I started making myself feel guilty for not wanting to do the work and for not wanting to show up. And I was like, why do I keep sabotaging myself here? And again, it was just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then ultimately, I ended up lashing out like at friends and family all the time. My way of dealing with things is to totally withdraw. So let's keep the quarantine going. So when I totally burnt out after the quarantine, before the quarantine, I stayed quarantined still. Because I was stuck in my bed all the time. I was bawling my eyes out almost every day, trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to be doing? I thought this was my calling, but I'm miserable. I am not where I thought I was supposed to be. I spent 3 years working my tail off and not making enough money to live sustainably. And I just did not understand. And I was throwing money down the drain, or I thought I was throwing money down the drain, hiring coaches and doing certifications and going to Pays to Be Brave and like all these things, when I really couldn't afford it. You know, at the end of the day, I couldn't afford it. And I was digging myself deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And I was stressing out to the max. So the things that you don't see are those tears every day. I started getting even more and more stressed. So that's around the time my TMJ actually started acting up even worse, where I was getting migraines almost every day. So add that on to feeling guilty for not working. And then I blamed it on that. And then I started binge eating again. And I had developed a binge eating disorder in college, and I didn't think I was going to get back into it, but I did. I started put on like 40 pounds or something in a matter of a few months. And again, I withdrew. Like, I was just very depressed. I didn't have that life. I didn't have the energy. I didn't want to show up. I didn't want to do anything. And honestly, it's really hard for me to go back there and think about those days because I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought I was going to have to go back and get a real job, which I actually did interview for. I interviewed for a couple because I thought I was going to have to do it. And gosh, instead of going to get that real job, I think I joined the mastermind. Like instead.
Guys, this is how entrepreneurs work, by the way.
1 minute, I'm like, I am flailing around, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like, yes, like, let's go. And then it was like this up and down, up and down. And golly, I was not being human. I was not. And I was, like I said, I was lashing out at everybody. Like, I can't even, I wish I could somehow help people see like what we go through, and like how those times really were, because I can sit here and like kind of share like all of these moments with you, but it's still not, I feel like it just doesn't align with really how it was and how I felt. And like I thought I was dying. I really did. I didn't know what to do.
Well, your soul was probably dying. Like, I think that's the thing that, we don't talk about like enough as like a society, is you may be alive, but we're not just our head. We're not just our body. We're not just a beating heart. Like, we're this whole encompass of everything. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're alive, but your soul is dying. So yes, you feel like you're dead.
Yeah. I totally lost myself.
Yeah.
I really did. Like, I didn't know who I was. Like, going back to the identity piece, I didn't, you know, and I was just so lost.
Yeah.
I was lost. And that's really, and even when I did, and here's to paint a picture for you, even when I did see success, even when I did hit like a rank or a promotion or earn a trip or have people join me in my own business that I started and be my client, all this and all that, and things that you see like online, I felt it for a second and I felt validated for a second. And then what happens is it's like this, you need more. You need to be validated more. And it's like this vicious cycle that never ends. And honestly, it gets worse and worse, and the need gets bigger and bigger. And I got so sick of feeling that way that that's when I just stopped everything. And I took those months to just stop because I couldn't keep going like that anymore.
Yeah. It's exhausting. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, Brene Brown talks about like the opposite of belonging is fitting in, because fitting in is adjusting who you are, where belonging is being who you are. And not being who you are will drain our energy like so fast. And there's so many of us, like, it's just been interesting, even in these podcast interviews and then just observing myself. We filter ourselves so much. And there's a point in having a, filter. Like, you don't just want to go out and, say every thought that crosses your mind. A filter is good, but it's like, if we have good intentions and we're trying to put good out into the world and we want those things to come to fruition, whether it be in our dreams, our business or whatever, we have to stop filtering ourselves, because it's on a spiritual level, it is killing us.
It's killing us. Like, it was killing me. I could not go on anymore. And I feel like if I did, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what it would have driven me to. I don't. It was that bad. And I know that there are people probably that's going to listen to this going through that right now. And it is so hard, but you can get yourself out of it. It's hard, but you can.
Did you have a specific moment that was like, this something needs to change, like a pivotal moment, I guess we could call it?
Let's see. I did actually. It's really interesting because I was just talking with someone today and she actually brought up this moment. And it's so funny how life is like that. But so during my really dark times, one of my leaders who was in the network marketing business I was in, she actually ended up asking me to be a speaker at one of our team events. And I was like, yes, like this is amazing. For one, it was like totally validating, right? Because that's why I was seeking before. But I was also terrified to death because if you know me at all, and if you knew me before any of this, I've been mortified of public speaking since forever. Like I remember being in college and I totally froze in the middle of my public speaking thing. I don't even remember what class it was. I think it was my biochemistry final or something, or ecology, I don't know, some class. And I just was talking. I memorized it. I spent hours memorizing it. And I was talking, and in the middle of my sentence, I just stopped. Like the words just stopped coming out of my mouth. It was so embarrassing. And I swear it was quiet for like 30 seconds. And when you're up there and people are just staring at you, 30 seconds feels like a million years. So I have never spoken in front of people or any of that, like anything like that since that day. And so when she asked me to be like a speaker for our event, I was honored and excited, but terrified to death. And I remember driving up there. And my friend actually had to drive for me because I had a panic attack on the way there. And because I was so afraid to talk. And I will just never forget this. But long story short, the speaking engagement went very, very well. People ended up like standing and clapping, and I was like crying. And it was this huge moment when I realized that God created me to share, and God created me to live out my purpose and to this identity. And it was not long after that I launched my second coaching program, and a few months later was when I hit that 10K month, which ultimately led to another breakdown. But ultimately, that was like the biggest pivotal moment I think ever, because it got me out of my shell. It was when I had stopped showing up altogether. And after that moment, I started showing up again. And it changed everything. So basically doing the thing I thought I would never be able to do changed it all.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think that is so powerful, though, to say like you had that pivotal moment and yet you still hit rock bottom like at the end of that, because I don't think we realize like true change comes from pain. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, like we kind of live, I feel like, in a society that doesn't think pain should exist, like kind of thinks we should.
Yeah, you see it all the time.
Yeah, like it should just be a coast down the hill for the rest of your life. I'm like, well, you'd actually be more miserable.
Yeah, and so even though those times are really hard and those breaking moments, like after I hit a 10K month, I had a mini panic attack. After way before that, I had stopped showing up. Even though those were really hard times in my life, I am so thankful for those times, because without being broken like that, I would not be molded into who I am today. And I truly believe that we have to break first in order to be molded into who we are made to be, because before that, there was no way you could convince me that I was going to talk about God and faith and stuff on my platform. Seriously, like there was no way. And it's just so funny now because that's such a huge part of my brand. I had to break first.
It was so, I love, so at the time of this recording, IG Reels are fairly new and kind of like on the rise. So Hannah have to go to her page and check it out, but she has an Instagram Reel. And I think the question is like, or the statement is like, you shouldn't combine faith and business. And like Hannah takes off her glasses and is like, maybe I'm a different breed. It's amazing. I was laughing so hard. I was like, yes.
But it's true. Like it's like I said, I always grew up being like a Christian, going to church, but I always thought I didn't need to combine those things. And then one day it just all clicked. It was like I went to that Bible study and it clicked for me. Again, I don't even remember what was said. And then after I spoke that day, it all started making sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Do you suffer from shiny object syndrome, aka procrastination, aka perfectionism, overthinking, too many ideas, not enough action, lack of focus, lack of completion, and the worst for me, procrastination? My friend, I have suffered through all of these things, and I've put a guide together to give you my best tools and strategies to overcome shiny object syndrome and how to make a confident decision in 4 simple steps. Get my guide at livealignedcoaching.com/shiny. That's livealignedcoaching.com/shiny. The link is waiting for you in the show notes. And now back to the interview.
I kind of want to hear your thoughts, and we've talked a little bit about it privately, but I think a lot of people have got, burned from churches in some way. So they've ran from religion, where it's like, I really want them to see, one, just how powerful God and Jesus and having that presence in life is for like everything. Would you mind saying what you believe the difference between like church and then God himself and Jesus himself, like those differences?
Absolutely. I think, like I was mentioning earlier, like I think there is this worldwide identity crisis. Okay. And when I say something like that, I mean, we are chasing what the world says we need to be chasing, like these 401k and safety and retirement and, having a family, all this, all that, whatever it is. Okay. And I think it's so easy for the church and everyday religion to also get caught up in that and to start saying things like, well, you need to do, you have to do this or you're going to go to hell. And like they use this fear tactic, I feel like, and this is something that, I see all the time. People are using this fear tactic, but there's something, and I don't want to go too deep into this because it could make us be on here forever, but but basically, going to church and being a quote unquote Christian is not the same as having a relationship with God. And I think so many people are seeking a relationship with God and they don't even know it. I was seeking a relationship with God and I didn't know it because I was seeking validation and safety because I was seeking money and I was seeking my worthiness and I was seeking all of those things in worldly things and places and people. And the only person who can actually do that, and the only thing that can actually provide that for me is God. At the end of the day, that's the only way. And so ultimately, what you do, like when you go to church and people say like you have to do these things or you're going to go to hell, that is like, that's just not even the most amazing gift that we have. We have the gift of actually being with him now. We don't have to wait to die and go to heaven. He's here now, and it's just amazing to me because it breaks my heart that people have been so burned by religion, because I get it. Like I grew up like feeling that way. I get it, but it breaks my heart because you see so many people like, addicts or binge eaters. Hi, that's me. Or, people seeking all of this, but really they're just wanting to feel whole and feel complete and feel connected. That's what people are searching for. But the only way to truly feel that is by seeking God, and feeling that connection in that relationship. And people stay in these bad relationships because they want to feel whole and they want to feel good and they want to feel worthy. But that's not who you should be seeking that from. We're humans and we're imperfect, and there's no way that we can fill up our cups completely. The only person and the only thing that can do that is God. And that's the difference.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Oh my God. Brendan Burchard says, can I get an amen on a whatever day it is? So I'm like, can I get an amen on Tuesday?
Amen.
Oh my gosh. I just, I didn't, thank you for putting that into words. My mind's a little blown right now. So I'm trying to come back down to reality because of that.
No, you're good.
But that was amazing because I had that moment. I was like, I came out of a meditation like a month ago and I realized I'm like, everything I've been searching for, I already have. And that was that certainty, that support, that, and it's like, well, it's in spirituality, it's in God, it's in, spiritual leaders, it's in like spiritual guides. I was like, wait, leaders is the wrong thing, guides, and I'm like, every single one of us already has all that, and we don't realize that we're searching for something we already have. And okay, well, yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to
no, you're so right, because it's crazy because we're on this on this hamster wheel and we just keep running and we just keep searching, but we never move any farther. And in fact, I would argue we move farther away. And it's funny because we're constantly seeking those things. So for example, if you're seeking money and you're like, okay, I've got to make this money, or maybe you really need to make money right now. Like I was there, like I've been there, or like you're not going to be able to pay your bills, right? I get that. But that means that ultimately you're looking for stability and you're looking for security and safety. You have to go to the root of what you're seeking. So if you're looking for, a relationship, like, I'm still single, but say I was looking for, a husband or a spouse or whatever, what am I really seeking? You kind of have to ask these questions, like, what is it that you really are seeking? And you have to get to the root of that. And ultimately, whatever that root is, it's already covered.
Yeah. I think that root is always a feeling of some sort. It's like, are you wanting the money because you want to feel successful, or are you wanting the money because you want to feel grounded and, use it as a tool for more good? I think the universe and God, however you want to call it, like that's how they're responding, is why are you trying to attract that, not what are you trying to get per se.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'd actually like to talk about, because I've noticed like when I meet younger girls that are like just graduating high school, I'm like, yeah, actually, I think you should take a year off and travel and then decide if you want to go to college. And I'm curious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts because you have a degree that you don't use. So I'm very, very curious.
Ooh, so I definitely agree with this, but a little backstory. I actually graduated high school when I was 16. And I worked for a year and I went to college at 18. I always wanted to be a doctor, even though I took that year. Like, I always wanted to be a doctor or something in the medical profession. Yet I still ended up getting this degree that I don't use. But truly, I actually think that people need more than a year. I believe like people need longer to figure it out at the end of the day. I mean, if they want to go to college, go. Like, I think for me, I actually would have regretted not going to college because I would have thought, I would have felt bad or guilty because I had always wanted to do that. And so I would have always wondered, well, what if I did that? Well, now I know, like I really don't want it. Yeah. But at the same time, I do wish I would have taken a little bit longer to explore, because I didn't really start exploring until halfway through college when I realized I hated it. You know, I just went into college thinking I was going to do this, only to find out I hated it, didn't want to do it. I was so stubborn and set in my ways, I didn't take the time to realize there was a whole world full of endless and limitless opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, I had no idea I could make money online doing whatever it is that I wanted until later. And I wish I would have figured that out sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So at one point I read, you said you had the idea that you wanted to make money online before you actually started. So when did that idea kind of come to fruition?
So it was, this is a good question. So when I was in college, I was dating who I thought was the love of my life. Okay. Yeah. Well, it turns out it was actually like a very toxic relationship, and it very manipulative. And it just wasn't good. Okay. It was not a good relationship. We ended up breaking up, but, during that relationship, this is going to sound so weird, but just stay with me, follow me. He didn't like when I wore makeup. Okay. So I don't know why. He just always said I was prettier without makeup. I didn't need it. La-di-da. He would always make me feel guilty when I wore makeup. I don't even know if he said things. I just remember feeling guilty or something. So I just stopped wearing makeup altogether. And it was something I loved to do. Okay. Well, when we broke up, I became so obsessed with makeup. I think I was like rebelling and trying to like, quote unquote, get back at him, that I spent thousands of dollars, used my refund checks for like the loans I got at college to go buy more makeup, and ended up becoming a freelance makeup artist. I started a YouTube channel. That was my first go at entrepreneurship, by the way, was I started a beauty YouTube channel. I became a freelance makeup artist and ended up going to work at MAC, and people knew me for makeup. And it's so funny because he never wanted me to wear it. And then I just went all in on makeup, which actually ended up leading me to my first network marketing company, which was a beauty company. So I'm so grateful for that relationship, because it led me down the path of here I am today. Because so it actually started. Then when I remember when I was dating him as well, I remember being on Instagram and seeing all these bloggers and like beauty YouTubers. And I was like, well, how do they make money if this is their job? I don't understand. And I remember also while I was in college, like I started a blog. I had no idea what I was going to blog about. But I remember creating my very first blog post. It was like comparing beauty subscription boxes. And that's how I kind of got started. I started navigating blogging and YouTube, and then found my way through makeup, and then found my way to my first network marketing company. And then from there, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that rebel bone too. I always think of, do you know Lori Morgan, the country singer? No. Okay, so I always think so I did like a very similar thing. So everyone was like, you're going to run the family business. You're going to do this. Like I saw that they had my life planned out for me. And I was like, what can I do that would surprise everybody? I'm like, I'll move to LA and go to film school. So that's what I did.
Oh, that is so cool.
I'm like, let me just throw a curveball in here. But those moments I have, Lori Morgan has a song called Watch Me. And if you've never heard it, you've got to listen to it. And so it's like, watch me prove you wrong today. And it's like, oh, you think I'm going to go that way? Like, watch me.
Yeah, it was like, that was like my way of getting back at him, I guess. I don't know. Well, I'm really glad I did that.
I don't think we know half the time. It's like we don't know in the moment why we're doing it. And it's like we get further along and have all this perspective. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea. That's what I was doing at the time. I remember just watching these beauty YouTubers. And I think that was like my escape from reality, my escape from being sad. And so then I saw myself doing those things. And then, I don't know, it just, who knows, but I'm grateful for it. So
it's so ironic and funny. And it's also like so fun to look back on. And it's like, it's just part of the journey.
Oh yeah. All the twists and turns and setbacks. And it's so amazing to actually take the time to look back, because so much happens and you start realizing, like you said, like putting things into perspective. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought this was really interesting because I've had the same experience, but I've never really put it into words. But you said when you went to the mastermind in San Diego, the scary part wasn't going into a room full of people you'd never met. The scary part wasn't making the plan. The scary part was coming home. And I'd love for you to talk about that.
Ooh, okay. So I ended up investing in a mastermind. Okay. So this was the mastermind I ended up investing in instead of getting a real job. This was that mastermind.
I love this. I love this so much.
And I'm laughing now, but then I was really terrified because I was like, well, I gotta make this work. You know, this is literally I remember telling myself, this is it. If I don't make this work, I'm going to get a real job. I have to, right? So I was literally forcing myself up against the wall here. Like, we're laughing, but man, it was terrifying. Talk about like, like I made a decision that day. I was like, it's gonna happen. And so, you know, the scary part was I joined a mastermind. I never met these people before in my life. Ended up flying to San Diego. They like rented an Airbnb. And I met all these people again I had never met before in my life, but that wasn't the scary part. And the scary part was not making the plan. And just so for some perspective here, because I forgot to share this mastermind was, I joined this mastermind to start my coaching business because I hadn't started my coaching business yet. I was only doing network marketing and at the time, but I had dreamed of actually doing coaching, like starting my own business. And so that's why I actually joined Mastermind for someone to help me launch this coaching business, because I didn't know what I was doing, you know? And so I was like, I need help. So that's why I did that. And so when I say the scary part was coming home, the scary part was actually putting the plan into practice and making it become a reality, because I could sit there and dream all day about starting this coaching business, and I did. But the scary part was actually doing it, and just, what if I failed? You know, or what if I didn't fail and it was a big success? Like, I struggle with both the fear of failure and the fear of success, because fear of success is real. You know, what happens if you do actually hit your financial goals, or you do these things? That means you really have to step up. You know, that means you really have to become the person you're running away from. And that's what that meant for me. Was I was afraid to come home. I actually remember, I will never forget this. I remember being in a coffee shop. I had left the Airbnb, so I had left the actual mastermind retreat. I went to a coffee shop in San Diego because I had a late flight. And so I was waiting on my flight and I was working. And when I say working, I was scheduling sales calls with people, because I had just made a post about how I was launching a beta program. And so I was scheduling calls, and I remember bawling in the middle of this coffee shop by myself, because I did not feel like I could do it. I did not feel good enough. I had never been on a sales call before in my life. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was doing these things. And I was terrified, and I realized in that moment, I said, okay, Hannah, you can back out now. You can back out now, and you can go get a real job. That's fine. If you do it, don't be ashamed. Like, that's fine. And I remember having this conversation with myself and being like, no, you can do this. I remember shutting my laptop and walked through the airport. Finally, like, I had just gave myself a break. I needed a breather. And I remember walking through the airport, And I just remember being like, I can do this. I can do this. And I sat down like at the, where you like kind of check in and waiting like to board the plane. And I sat down and I remember going in and responding to people and setting those appointment times. And I don't know what changed, to be totally honest. But I just remember not being afraid anymore. Something changed. I don't know what. I must have been praying.
Yeah.
But I remember I just felt at peace and I knew it was good. And the very first sales call I ever had, she enrolled. And it was the most incredible feeling in the world.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I've been to San Diego a few times, and so I can like picture the airport and like the coffee shops and all that stuff. I'm like, it's so incredible. And I don't know if you realized you were doing this, but like this is a very powerful like tool, because in hindsight, I wish I would have done more of this. When you go to something so immersive, like a mastermind or a seminar, whatever it is, whatever goals you set for yourself at that time, you want to do something to basically tie your butt to the goal before you leave. Like you don't want to leave without making some form of commitment, because we get back home, we get in our patterns, we get in our habits, and we forget everything we said we were going to do.
Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out. Yeah, because I remember being at the retreat and being like, I have to make this post and announce this here.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I did like a couple of things, and so I got it started, and it was just, I don't know if I would have actually done it if I came home. That's a really good point. I don't know if I would have, because I would have been so afraid. I mean, maybe I would have, but I definitely had to have gone through that there, and it was an incredible experience, and I will never forget it, because you're right. There's something about really immersing yourself in a place and tying it to that, because I will never forget that particular mastermind in San Diego led me to launch my very first coaching program ever.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And like, what a magical place to have all of that come to fruition.
That's like my favorite place in the whole world. San Diego. It's so beautiful there.
Yeah, I had been there once before. So February, I was down there before kind of quarantine life started, and I got to explore for a day. And I was like, there is something about this city that just is very magic, because I lived in LA, and LA does not have the same thing as San Diego.
You feel free there.
Yeah.
I don't know, like something kind of shifts. I absolutely love it there. I go back every chance I can.
Do you?
Well, I've only been one other time. That was Pays to Be Brave. And then COVID hit.
It's just so like what we were talking about earlier about how things come full circle. Like, something you were talking about earlier, we brought up in the interview, like you shared a picture on your Instagram in San Diego, and I was like in that exact same spot earlier this year. And then a year,
so cool.
Yeah. And then like a year ago today, my family and I were on a plane, and we went to San Antonio for the first time, and went to, is it Groon Hall?
Yeah.
That right? Yeah.
Yeah, in Texas, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I was there like last year. So I saw your picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, literally like a year ago today, we were down there like checking that town out.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got those pictures.
Yeah. I know. Before I interview people, I always feel like a stalker, because I like go through everything I can to like find out about them, and I'm like, don't mind me. But Instagram.
Well, no, girl. Like, I love that, and I definitely want a copy of that intro you did, because I was like, yes.
Yes. Yes, it is all yours. So I actually do want to know how folks can start to claim their crown.
Ooh, well, it all starts with a decision and a desire to ultimately I talked about this in my Rooted series I did last week, but ultimately it starts with this idea of surrender, this idea of giving up these things and seeking these things and actually seeking what it is that you truly desire to be connected to God, or maybe like for someone else, it's source, right? For me, it's God. And to really be connected and become one with Him is ultimately when you can truly, quote unquote, claim your crown, right?
Yeah.
Is when you are truly embodying this version of yourself that you keep picturing. And the only way to do that, and the only way to truly get to there, is to have faith that you will, and to surrender all of like these results and this idea in your head that it has to be this certain way. Because I truly believe that when you take the action, like, because I'm not saying like, you can't take action. That's not what I'm saying at all. Take the action, but surrender the results to Him. And when you do that, everything changes. And you begin to see Him everywhere. And so something else I'll share too is really to claim your crown, to seek Him everywhere. And I saw a quote, and I'll share it here. I saw it on Instagram one day. I have no idea who posted it or who said it, but it's so relevant and I love it so much. But the quote said, "If you don't expect to see God today or to hear from God today, you won't." And so I guess what I'm saying is be open, expect to hear from Him today, and you'll see Him everywhere. And I swear it's like He speaks to you anyway, through numbers, a friend, through like hearing a song or hearing a phrase, like, or I'll share something with you, is that I've been feeling on my heart I need to start a podcast, and I actually have been feeling this way for a couple of years. Fun fact. But
I'm
more
accountable, by the way.
Yeah, okay, good. But more recently, it's been like, Hannah, you've got to start a podcast. And I keep feeling like He's telling me this, and now I'm getting confirmation everywhere. Like when you asked, if I wanted to be on this podcast, someone else was like, Hannah, when are you starting your podcast? And then I had a random person ask me, do you have a podcast? Like, you seem like you have a podcast, all within a matter of 24 hours. And I was like, okay, well, I should probably do this. I think
About time.
And so I'm like, all right, I got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's like and like all these things we think are coincidences aren't coincidences. I truly don't believe in coincidences at all. And I believe that everything is aligned for a purpose and, a greater purpose and a greater mission. And so ultimately, to claim your crown, that means that you are seeking something so much bigger than you. And that's what that means.
Yeah, I know. I loved one of the things you said that about your dreams, about there's no way that I made these dreams up. Like, I couldn't dream this big. And I feel the same way. I'm like, there's no way it's just us. Like, there's just no.
No. And like some of the stuff that pops in my head, like this whole, actually, like someone was asking me today, like, where did you like come up with this queen thing? Like, how did you do that? And I was like, honestly, it just kind of came to me. But I swear, I think it was God speaking to me, like through my thoughts. Like, it wasn't just my thoughts, because if you think about it, He's the creator. We were made in His image, and so ultimately, anything that we think, He has already thought. He's already put it into existence. It's not us at all. And it's really so beautiful to kind of think of it that way. And I think so often when we are seeking our own power, because I think that is so, you see it on social media all the time, that we have the power and we can do this and we can do that. And for me, that hindered me, because let's just be honest here. Humans are limited.
Yeah.
Humans are. but God is not. And if he is in you and you're seeking him, then ultimately you are not limited. And so when you seek him and you embody that version of you, anything is possible. And that changed everything. Like I said, I feel like if I relied on my own energy and my own strength, when I was doing that, it was not sustainable for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Yeah, it's so crazy how many things are coming full circle today, because I did the outline yesterday, but I'm going to record it for an IGTV today. As I was talking about how there was a certain point in my journey, I didn't have enough strength to get myself through. I was borrowing it from my sister. I was borrowing it from my mom. I was borrowing it from my dad.
Yes.
I wasn't super strong. I was going through a really, dark time. One of those how could God exist if this is happening? It was one of those moments. So I didn't have faith, and I had to get through. I was going through my court and trial dates as a kid. And I was like, I had to borrow courage and strength from other people because I didn't have enough. And, now that my, faith is stronger, I do lean on that a lot. But you're right. We're going to go through times in our life where we don't have enough from ourselves to tap into. We have to tap into something else.
Yes, absolutely. It is crazy because you do see all these quotes today and all these sexy feel good quotes, which are amazing, right? But I do feel like we're forgetting that one piece. Yeah. Where is that actually coming from? Where is that source of power coming from? Because I would argue that without him, who are we?
Yeah.
He created us, and I don't know. I mean, that's a big topic.
Well, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier with, the quotes on Instagram. It's people are searching for something and they don't even know what it is, but it's God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't even know. And it just makes me so sad because now I just want to share this with the world. And I ultimately think that, if, I don't know, maybe you've been burned by Christianity or religion, which there's people out there that have, and I hate that. But, there is a verse in the Bible that it says, God, he will grant you the desires of your heart. He will, if you seek him. And I truly believe what happens is when you seek him, your desires actually align with his. And it becomes this.
Yeah.
It's what your purpose is and who you are. And ultimately everything that you had searched for is in him because you are seeking him and he is providing that for you. And I cannot tell you how amazing it feels. And if I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, I'm perfect. And, I connect with God all the time. No, it's not like that at all. It takes work, but it's a practice and it's progress. But it's so amazing when you can actually catch yourself and realign, because I will say it is a battle for me to not seek validation from the world or to seek that success. I always have to catch myself for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I do not want to go back to that dark place, let me tell you.
No.
Don't want to go back there. And part of me wonders if this is just a whole different conversation, but part of me wonders if this heaven and this hell, perhaps this is going to sound crazy, but perhaps we have it here on earth, perhaps we have it here now and it's not this, and perhaps yes, it is in the spiritual realm too, but perhaps it can be mimicked on earth. Right. And so for me, what I was going through, that was my form of hell. I truly believe that. That's what it felt like. But why? And and another thing in the Bible, it says, gosh, I'm going off on a tangent here. On earth as it is in heaven, and so why, I don't know. It's why can't we have heaven here? And I feel like we can have hell here. I've kind of been through it and everyone's hell is different. And I think sometimes we have to break in order to get to this point where we feel so abundant and we feel so rich. And when I say rich, I don't mean like, money rich, but just like joyous and happy and one and complete. And I'm going to stop talking now because I just totally ran out.
No, you're good. And like, don't feel crazy. I don't think this conversation is happening on accident at all, because I've had that same, I was watching a bunch of people last week, and it's like, you know what, you have to make your own decisions as far as, yes, there's a pandemic going on. Yes, COVID has some very serious consequences, but people have to start really evaluating the benefits and consequences, because so many people are only looking at the benefits of one thing, and they're putting themselves in hell before they even die. And I'm like, whether you believe in heaven and hell, you're worried about dying, but you're putting yourself in hell on earth. Like, I mean, you're turning in your neighbors because their decision is to have people over for Thanksgiving. And it's like, that's their decision. You cannot control them. And by turning them in, it's like, love thy neighbor. Like, whether you're Christian or not, it's like you're putting yourself in a personal hell here right now because of fear. So, and I get it, fear. That's a very thing. We don't talk about it, but it's like, guys, we have to start creating a heaven here and not a hell. Yes. I do think it is. I do think it's here. I really do. And the 4 Agreements talks about personal freedom and heaven and hell being here on earth. And I love that book so much. But I'm like, that be our goal, is to pursue heaven here and to reject hell here. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And wow, that's really neat that you were like kind of going through that and reading that book and having that conversation. No, everything is kind of coming full circle. And I'm really glad I kind of shared that part, because I do believe that we can have heaven here. And I do truly believe that. And will that look like riches falling from the sky? I don't know. Maybe for one person, like maybe not for someone else. I don't know. But I truly believe, like, when we seek him and we become one with him, and we merge with him and we listen to him and we align with him, your heaven will be here.
Yeah.
He wants good for his children, and if we're created like in his image, like, we don't want bad for our kids. We don't want bad for our children. We don't want them to break, but we want what's good for them. And sometimes breaking is what we need to do in order to get to that heaven, in order to get to that next level, in order to become that version of yourself that you ultimately like have so much faith that heaven will be here and heaven is here.
Yeah.
Because without breaking, I would not be here having this conversation with you.
Yeah. All righty, Miss Hannah, are you ready for the questions?
Yeah. These would be good.
Yeah. What are 3 books that have changed your life?
Oh my gosh. Okay. The very first one that comes to mind is Miracle Morning. That was, I'm pretty sure, the very first personal development book I ever read. And it was before I started entrepreneurship. It changed my life because it taught me why having a morning routine is so important, and actually creating that ritual for yourself. That's one book. The second book is The Compound Effect. I forgot who wrote that book, but it's so
Darren
good. It talks about, Darren Hardy. That's it. The Compound Effect. I absolutely love that book. Recommend it to everyone because it truly puts consistency and doing small actions into perspective. That truly, if you do these little things over time and the most important things, it will compound, and it will actually, when I say compound, it means exacerbate and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the most incredible thing. So that's the second one. And the third book is, I'm going to be cliche here and I'm going to say the Bible.
Not cliche at all. You're my first one to say that, actually, I believe.
Really?
I believe so. Yeah.
Actually, it should be my number one. But if we're talking like books in the Bible, I'm going to say my two favorites, just in case anyone's curious, is the book of John and the book of Ephesians. They are beautiful, beautiful books.
Yeah, I think when I ask that question, people think of personal development books or whatever their kind of lane of genius is. And so, yeah, the Bible's never come up, but yeah,
That's so funny.
Yeah. Alrighty. So what is one thing that makes you stupid happy and you don't know why?
Oh, ice cream.
Yes.
Ice cream or puppies or a nice carbonated beverage. Something about the bubbles. I love it.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
Like I'm drinking a San Pellegrino right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
me super happy. Anything bubbly that includes champagne as well.
Yes. Okay. What is one song that makes you feel bulletproof?
Ooh. I would say, gosh, I don't even know who sings it, so I'm going to look it up really quick. Actually, a newer song that I've been listening to. So, I'm going to sound really cheesy right now, but I love listening to like worship music throughout my day. It actually lifts my spirit so much. And my very favorite song at this moment is "Stand in Your Love," and it's by Bethel Music and Josh Baldwin. I love that song. It talks about how fear doesn't stand a chance when I'm standing in your love. And that makes me feel so powerful and so strong. And I love it.
I love that. If you could wave a wand and make everyone believe one thing about themselves, what would it be?
This is a good question. Oh, I feel like I have to think really hard on this one. I would say if I can make every single person believe one thing, it's that, or one thing about themselves, is that they already have the answer inside of them. And they already have those feelings inside of them, through God. They just have to search for it internally and not externally.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, before I ask my final question, where can folks find and connect with you?
Ooh, come find me on Instagram. I am Hannah Brindley, so HANNAHBRINDLEY. It's my last name sounds like friendly, but with a B.
Oh,
so just come find me on Instagram. Yeah. And so if you come over, send me a DM and tell me where you came from. Yeah, I'm excited to connect with you if you do.
Yeah, and Hannah sends audio message, which is my love language, hence the podcast.
I love audio messages.
I do too. Alrighty. So my last question is, what is your definition of living aligned?
Ooh. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I would say, again, looking internally, stop looking at all the external sources and start looking inside and like seeking Him. And when I say Him, I mean God in all places. So instead of seeking, validation from these external places, just start seeking God and start seeking Him and who He created you to be. Because at the end of the day, the only way you're really going to feel aligned and in true purpose is when you do align with the Creator, because He created you for a purpose. And I think we keep searching and searching and searching for a purpose. Like we have this worldwide identity crisis going on here, but really our purpose is aligned with where we came from.
Yeah, I love that. Hannah Brindley, everybody. Oh, thank you so much. That was incredible.
Oh, you're so welcome.
my friend, did you love it or did you love it? Or did you really love it? Like I said, I'm so biased, but I love these interviews and I hope you are getting as much value out of it as I am. They're so incredible. And I just love hearing other people's golden nuggets and perspectives. It's my favorite, I'm not gonna lie, and I hope they're your favorite too. Before we go today, I want to ask you a huge favor. Would you please rate and review, specifically if you really love me? You know that is it James Brown that's like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love? You know, yeah, I'm gonna quit singing because none of us really want that. But if you love me, if you really love me, would you please leave a written review and let me know, what did you love about the show? What would you love to see more of? It would mean the world to me. And it also helps me get in front of the eyes of new people. So it would be greatly appreciated for me, for Willard, and for our future life coasters. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show, my friend. And until next time, be a rebel, live aligned, and go make a ruckus.